Hey, welcome to More Than a Refresh, another T3D session with Hunter O'Brien. O'Brien, what kind of lass are you? Are you Irish or
Uh,
Scottish?
Irish.
Irish.
Yeah.
I too am mostly German Irish, actually.
Oh.
So what are we talking about today?
So today I wanted to give a talk about the AWS IAM simulation for the IAM policy.
Okay, hold
So
on.
the identity management.
That's what I was going to ask for our visitors, watchers, and mass adoration creators. What is IAM, and that is identity management. So go ahead.
Yeah. So as we know, IAM identity management for your AWS environment allows you to define certain roles for your automated workflows, as well as certain policy permissions that can be attached to your users. The issue is that a lot of the times when people go in to do workloads or when they're designing new roles, AWS has a huge catalog of
Mhm.
policies to be attached. And it can sometimes be very, very difficult to pin down exactly what kind of permission at what level to what resource type. And sometimes they cross over. So what the simulator does is it allows you to go in, you can design for your roles. You can say, okay, well, I know it's going to commit this action within the workplace. It's going to place an object into the S3 bucket, and then it's going to make an API call. I can program that workload into the simulator, run it, and then it spits out an exact JSON object of what IAM policy needs to be attached, and even allows me to attach it right there and create that policy.
Okay, but then you said it's a simulator. So does it also? Are you able to hit? I've never played with this tool. Are you able to hit, for example, play, and it creates a situation to see where it'll break?
Yeah. So what it does is it simulates the actual API calls that you would make in the console, in the command line interface. Best part, it does not run up your budget. So it simulates all these calls as if they're actually happening. You can watch it go step by step down your workload. If you want to pause it for a sec and see where you're at as far as what policies are needed, you can go ahead and attach those and continue the simulation as it goes. The other way you can use it is you can design your own policies. And let's say you have a new team member coming in where you want them to only touch certain parts of your environment, but you don't want to give them the keys to that full Ferrari yet. You can give them selected permissions based off those simulations you run. So you can say, hey, I want you to be able to go in and look at some of our products, but I don't exactly want you to have full power to edit or delete a product yet, as you would give to a full employee. You can go ahead and give them those select permissions without giving them the full update or delete if you're more familiar with SQL.
Okay. Well,
So,
I mean, it's certainly it's funny. What it sounds like to me is and I know this is a ridiculous comparison, but it sounds like an automated, diagnosable, traceable pseudo file,
yeah, pretty much.
right?
Um,
Uh,
yeah,
Obviously, with pseudo, in order to create a testing policy, you're doing a lot of command line stuff. You're touching things, piping things, you're echoing instead of actually executing the command, things like that. But it essentially gives you an environment where you can say, well, more importantly, you can, like, using Postgres roles. You can,
yeah,
if you add someone to a Postgres role, they have a specific set of permissions. Well, in this situation, you can have a role that's, let's call it probationary employee. Probationary
mhm,
employee pretend like they're real employees so they can become real employees, but until they are part of the real employee policy, they are probationary and therefore can't break shit.
yes,
You would know what this is like, not
yeah,
recently, but what, a
yeah,
year ago. So we let you open the magazine, but you weren't allowed to touch any of the pages.
yeah, exactly. Um, some of the other features that it has, by the way, is a lot of our clients use MFA. A lot of our clients have signed workstations. It'll allow you to test and make sure that, hey, our roles and our users are only allowed to perform this action if they did MFA. They're only allowed to access our console with MFA. If they have MFA turned off, they can actually, you can moderate that as well
Well, and
within the
that's that.
simulation.
I mean, we see that now. I mean, everyone is thankfully moving to MFA.
Yep.
But and if you're watching this and you're like, I hate MFA or 2FA or whatever you want to call it, everybody hates it. I hate it. I'm from the era. This is going to date me. I'm from the era where the way you would diagnose the network is you would use a protocol called Telnet, and you would Telnet right to the port of wherever you were diagnosing and send text commands back and forth to figure out where things were breaking. Okay. That is no longer the case. They will not let you do that. Believe me, I've tried. I have just for grins, one night you're sitting there like, I wonder if this still works. It doesn't. But MFA, the biggest downside to MFA is that it ties you to this.
Mm.
Right. That's the number one downside. Because if it ties you to this, you're tied to Google or you're tied to Apple. Those are basically your choices. Obviously, Microsoft has their authenticator app. There's multiple authenticator apps, but no matter what, you're tied to one of those two companies, which is a challenge. I find we have reached a point where, the bad actors out there they're everywhere, and they've always been everywhere, but now they're everywhere and they have the same access you do, which means that you have to be that much more careful. And that's where something like, IAM identity management, especially even for us, though, we're not on Amazon, it's really important.
Yep. No, I think it's extremely important to keep these policies aligned and making sure that you don't have too much, don't have too little. That's exactly what the AWS IAM simulator does, is it'll go in and tell you exactly for your workload that you designed, what policies do I not need? What am I being too lenient on? Do I have wildcards, little stars that let me do everything in the planet? You know, do I have them all over my policy, which is a huge risk for some companies? One action with a wildcat and then have a resource with a wildcat. Now you have full reign. You might as well be as close to the root user as you can be. So,
So, well, coming back a step, that applies to pretty much anything. Wildcards, a star, a splat is a terrible thing in anything you're doing in tech. There's a reason why any web developer worth their salt will not use select star when they're calling for a query, right? You don't do that because in the simplest example, what'll happen is you'll have a legacy application where you select star. That means grab everything. But your code only knows how to process, let's say, 4 entities. But all of a sudden, you have 6 entities because someone modified the relation underneath. Your code's going to break, and it's going to break everywhere where that's called. That's the same when it comes to identity management. Honestly, I don't think you should ever have a wild card in identity management. I can think of a very few policies, if any, where you want to say you want to be implicit versus explicit. Because the moment you're implicit, you don't know what you granted them.
yep, exactly. And it takes a minimal amount of time now with tools like the simulator to go through and say, hey, I want to have one of my employees, they have to log in through MFA. There's a box for that. You just go ahead, grab the box, drag it over to the simulator, and then I want them to be able to go into the marketplace. Little box, go over there, drag it in the simulator, and now you have specific permissions that you're assigning to these users with specific permission roles so that they don't get too much access, too little access, and they can't go in and turn and burn the entire environment, or they can't accidentally go over and rack the billing up times 30.
Well, I think it's funny because it's amazing how many clients, they don't take security seriously by choice.
Mm.
They take security seriously by force through regulation or whatever, but you touch their wallet and they're all over it. All right, we're
Yep.
almost out of time. What is one last tip for the IAM simulator that you would like to give out?
I think the one last tip I would like to give out is that you can use it in all of your environments, and you can do it with the same testing process that you do with your software. Have a staging, have a testing, and have a prod. Move your roles through those three before you let a role, which is one that controls an automated workload, immediately go into your prod. You have those full testing environments.
All right, folks, you heard him. Use MFA, always test, don't use wildcards. And this is another More Than a Refresh of T3D sessions with Hunter O'Brien. Thanks so much, Hunter.